I'm not wearing just my belief. I'm wearing my family history. I'm wearing my lineage that's been erased and taken. Like I'm wearing my pride and pain. And I realized that Western Christianity, there was no lineage in their faith. And that was the issue.
Welcome to another episode of the Olive Roots podcast. I'm your host, Chose Ayub. Today we have someone that is very special. She's a sister in Christ. She's unexpected in appearance, unmistakable in presence, a Palestinian who shifts the narrative. And her name is Gabby Baba. Gabby,
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How about you?
Good, good. Everything's good.
I'm excited to get to know you today. I've been following you on Instagram and seeing your fun and crazy stories.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, I've been following you for a while, so yeah, this is amazing.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Gabby, thank you for joining us today. The first portion I would like you to start with is your identity. So just share with the audience where you're from, how did you grow up, what kind of parents you come from, what kind of culture, whatever, anything you want to share, and your transition to the United States, and how did that happen, and what are you doing today? So the stage is yours.
Okay, where to start? I guess I don't know. Being Palestinian is it's a complicated, complex identity. It's very multi-layered, as you know. I'm from Houston, Texas, but my parents, grandparents, great grandparents on both sides are all from Ramallah in the West Bank. Both sides of my family are Christian. I grew up Greek Orthodox because my father's side was Greek Orthodox, but my mother's side was Catholic. So I did grow up here, but I have been back to Palestine several times. So I feel very lucky that I at least got to be a visitor in our homeland. um, but yeah, so I grew up Greek Orthodox, and um, you know, I'm a millennial. I'm 38, so I definitely grew up in the time of 9/11 era. And when you're a kid, you don't understand kind of the depths of what's going on. And as you get older, you kind of understand. I realized that just growing up as a kid in Houston, that people didn't know who Palestinians were. People didn't know who Arabs were. That was like a foreign place. And because I felt like when I was younger, I really embraced being Palestinian, and this is my culture, and this is what we eat, and you want to share that with people because you're young and innocent. And then as you get older, I felt that, the story changes because our narrative, it's hard to explain being Palestinian without including the occupier, including Israel in the narrative, because they're such a big part of our displacement and erasure. And that came later. When you're a kid, you don't really understand that. And so my identity was really shaped by um, when you look a certain way that doesn't match what people think, um, there's just like a layer to how you navigate the world. And I think the way that I looked really shaped how I felt a really big responsibility to share the story of being Palestinian and educating people about what being Palestinian is. From a lens of like a white passing lens, where people don't know I'm Arab until I say I'm Arab. So I kind of felt like my idea, I always kind of felt stuck in the middle. Like, you can have privilege within your oppression, but you can have oppression within your privilege. And I felt like I lived on both sides of the fence because I was able to camouflage into spaces. Um, but I also, camouflaging also is being unseen for what you are. So that was something that I had to navigate. And I understood, my father's name is Abdullah, and he's very tall, and he obviously looks very Middle Eastern. And when he walks out of his door, Abdullah's Muhammad's Abdullah, right? When I walk out of my front door, people assume that I'm a white woman, and Gabby is Gabby until people know I'm Arab. So I never faced racism until people knew who I was, and that was like just a culture shock for me because I face it and I don't face it. I'm humanized, but also dehumanized. So it's like kind of living as two separate people all the time and trying to like merge these two different people in a world of how people see you, because you can say what you are, but your identity is not just what you say you are, because people are the co-witness to it. So they're a part of the story of your identity, because people are going to you know they're going to they're going to describe you by what you look like. So I knew at a very young age that what I look like played a huge role in educating people about Palestine and having people feel connected to Palestinian people. And I try to explain that to Arabs who obviously look Arab, that the West has just demonized the Middle East and it's a foreign place. So when you kind of have a racially ambiguous look, you don't look too foreign, but it's familiar for comfortable for people. But you look different than the norm, so it's intriguing. So people are curious about it. People can connect to you. So I just felt like I had a certain targeted group, like when I was educating people about Palestine and sharing my story about being Palestinian. And it was always, my audience was always white women, because I shared experiences with them by the way I looked, but they didn't share my experiences as an Arab, as a Palestinian. So that really shaped my identity and how I navigated um, how I was going to tell my story, or Palestinian stories, and for people to have empathy. Because unfortunately, we live in a racist country, and people feel empathy to people that they look like. People feel something when they look at someone and they see themselves. And I felt like I could do that, and and it was like a lifetime battle. Like if people could look at me and feel empathy for my story, then can they connect that to other Palestinian stories and feel empathy? And that I was trying to connect that bridge, because I'm over here being treated like an individual, but then when people know I'm Palestinian, all of a sudden I'm grouped in, and then and I'm just like trying to connect that bridge. And because when people look at me, I don't look like a person that gets genocided. I don't look like the person you exterminate, you erase, right? I don't have We have decided in the West who's valued and who's not. And we know that brown and black people are not valued like white people. And it's like, I don't look like the person that you just get rid of. And that was really conflicting for people, because I am Palestinian, and I was a Palestinian child. I had Palestinian parents. I was detained by Israel every time I go back to occupy Palestine. Um, it's the only place in the world where my skin color doesn't matter. And that was really eye-opening, because I was able to camouflage in these spaces and extract information. I always felt like a detective, like, because we are comfortable in our own groups. We all code switch. When you're with a group of Arabs, you speak a certain way. And then when you're in another group of people who are not your kind, you adjust your verbiage, you adjust how you're seen. But when you're able to camouflage, people speak unfiltered. And I was able to extract the generalizations in certain groups that I wasn't a part of, that I didn't grow. I mean, I wasn't raised by white people. Like, I didn't know what it was like to be white. That was so foreign to me. I spent my life with Arabs, and I was able to kind of understand the structure of the West, of how they viewed Arabs, and I was shocked. And it was like I was trying to get information. And I go back to the Arabs. I'm like, oh my God, this is what they think. It was like I always felt like I was a spy trying to get information that, my father Abdullah would never be able to walk into a white space and get that information. And we do it subconsciously. We subconsciously do that when we go into group. We subconsciously adjust the way we speak and the words. I do it to this day. Like when I go into a group of white women, I tone it. They're very sensitive, so I have to just be nicer with my words and things like that, which I wouldn't do with my Palestinian cousins because Palestinian women are tough and they've been through a lot. And I think people forget that language and that tone exists from cultures, from different ethnicities. And I was able to kind of see that in a way that most Arabs couldn't. And that really shaped my view on the world. It shaped, it just shaped I was trying to figure out what can I do with this? It felt like a superpower. And I wanted to not just abuse my white privilege, but I wanted to utilize it. And for my fellow Arabs, not that I don't face racism. I absolutely face racism as an Arab, as a Palestinian. I mean, that's endless. But I also have privileges. So it's a very this duality of an existence. And then being Palestinian and feeling like you're constantly being erased, you're watching your erasure in real time, just adds another layer of isolation, I think. I think I felt very isolated because I was I always felt like I was never I never fit into a box. Like I wasn't Arab enough for the Arabs, but I wasn't white enough for the white people, but I wasn't queer enough for the queer people. So I was just kind of not in a box, and not being in a box isolates you more, which is ironic because you would think being in a box would isolate you, but it doesn't because it gives you a tiny sense of belonging. But as I got older, I realized not fitting in that box was actually a good thing because it reconfirmed that there's something inside of me that's real, that's raw, that's soulful, and that alone gave me a sense of belonging. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's a lot to unpack. Let's see.
Sorry, I'm just I know my mind's everywhere. I'm
No,
trying.
this was great. Wow, your story is not so different than mine.
Yeah, it's not.
I came here 3 weeks before September 11th, and I
Hmm.
was saying I'm Palestinian, I'm Middle Eastern because that's what they call us. I'm
Hmm.
Arab, even though we're not truly Arabs, we're Levantines, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I just
Yes,
I never say that because I'm just the explanation. I
yeah,
was
yeah. So, as a Palestinian, you never cared who's darker, who's lighter. You're
right.
Palestinian. We have people that you would call here black and white back home, but we never say black or white. We say Palestinian.
Right, because we have Afro-Palestinians, we have our
Yeah,
Middle
so
Eastern
I don't
Palestinians.
even say Afro-Palestinian. I'm just you're Palestinian, bro. You
Yeah, and
know?
it's the term Middle East was created by Europeans.
Mm.
I say the Middle East because that's what people know it as, but that's a European term.
Yeah, yeah, West Asians, I guess. But
Yeah, that's what it really is. Yeah.
yeah, so I came here 3 weeks. I'm Palestinian. I'm all this, and then September 11 happens, right?
Hmm.
And they were targeting anybody who looks Middle Eastern. And look at me. So I'm like, okay, who looks like me? I gotta
Yeah.
lie. Went
Yeah.
online and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna tell people to guess. Actually, I went to people. I was like, when they're like, "Where are you from?" I'm like, guess. 95% of people thought I was South American, Hispanic.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah, you don't look white, but I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say air. I would just be like, oh, I just know you're not white.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I went online and I started looking up, and I was like, oh my god, Puerto Ricans.
They look like Puerto Ricans.
So everybody's like, "Oh, Puerto Ricans, man, they look like us." And I was like, okay, they like to dance, they like the music, they like the
Yeah,
food. They're more tatted up in earrings and all that, which I didn't have, and I don't have tattoos, but I have
yeah,
my ears pierced. And I was like, okay, well, oh, Daddy Yankee. Okay, Wisin and Yandel. I was like, what do they speak? Spanish. I learned Spanish. I learned how to dance salsa, bachata, merengue, all
nice.
that. I dated a Puerto Rican girl, and I was trying so much just to fit in, to
Right,
avoid being Arab.
right,
The closest I got to down here in Georgia is Mexican because they don't know the difference.
right, right, right,
But still took the pressure away from being Middle Eastern. And then I lost myself.
right,
I
right. Yeah,
became Boricua, Latino, ya tú sabes.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, okay, I gotta get away from that. And I was like, all right. Then I had my Italian period of time. I'm Italian,
yeah. I can see that too. Greek, maybe. Yeah,
Sicilian.
I got
Yeah,
Greek sometimes with my dark hair. People would be like, "Oh, are you Greek?" I
yeah.
get that
So
sometimes.
then I was like, I'm Pali Rican,
Right.
Palestinian, Puerto Rican.
I like that.
And then a lot of people that were Puerto Rican till this day, they still believe I'm Puerto Rican.
But I mean, your name. They could just like look at your name.
Well, they see Chosi and they don't know what that is. And then
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah,
can't read my last name, Ayub. So they're like,
yeah.
Ayub, Ayub, Ayub. They don't know. And they're like, okay, he's racially ambiguous. So that took me away from the trouble. And
Mhm,
you're right. When I hang out with black people or white people or Hispanic people, I was trying to fit in.
mhm,
So in the South is black and white and me when I
mhm.
went to school. So I remember the first time I went to the cafeteria and the black people were here, the white people were here, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit by myself.
Just sit in the middle, stuck in the middle.
Yes, I sat in the middle, and then this random black guy comes to me and he's like, hey man, what's up, man? What you mixed with? So he thought I was mixed with something. I was like, oh, I'm not mixed, man. I'm Palestinian. He's like, oh, okay. He didn't know what that was, but he didn't care.
Right, right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay. What's up, man? So what you doing? You want to go to the club?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I went and I was hanging out with black people. After that, I was like, "Let me get to know white people." Start hanging out with white people. And it blew my mind that they're both American, but they're so different.
Yeah, yeah, they have similarities depending how long they've been in America, but they definitely have differences, because of their race and culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely different because the construct of whiteness is just
Yes, it's very different how they interacted. And me coming from there, I couldn't connect at the end of the day with either one, you
yeah,
know? It was more accepted by black people. They accepted me more, but still I was like, you're so different than me. And then
yeah.
I look at white people, some of them did not accept me and some of them did. And I was like, you still are so different than me. So eventually I start hanging out with the international students and I'm like, oh, this is where it's at.
This is where it's at, yeah.
So I hang out with people from all around the world, even like white people and black people from outside of the US. Very
Yeah,
different,
because you were born in Palestine.
Yeah, I was born and raised there. So I met, Asians, Hispanics, other Arabs. Then I met people from Europe. I met people from Africa. A lot of Nigerian friends, Caribbean friends,
Mhm,
German friends, Russian friends. And I was like, man, we're so different than these people here.
mhm,
And eventually I start finding like-minded people in the US. It took a while, but
mhm.
I understand about try to fit in. And you
Yeah,
don't you
yeah.
don't belong in a checkbox. Like for example, when I get the application for a job, you got white, black. Well, actually, now they ask you, are you Hispanic or not? Whatever.
We're in the white box. Middle Eastern's in the white box.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I read that and I was like, white, Caucasian, anybody from Europe or North Africa and the Middle East. And I was like, oh, so you
yeah.
try to claim Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they throw us in the data. They want to make us invisible in the data. I really truly believe that if you took Middle Easterns out of the data of the white category, the one thing that would skyrocket, that would lower in the white community, is higher education, and you would see the high education in Arab communities because Arab American women are the most educated women in America. In white or minority women, we are the most educated. We have the highest degrees, and I would love to. So it's just not accurate for us. We're just invisible in the data. That's why
Yeah.
we need our own box.
I mean, literacy rate in Gaza is up the charts. I mean, they love education, and that's why they were targeting their universities, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so okay, so you grew up in the US. How many times have you been back home and how much do you remember of Palestine?
Oh, I didn't go to Palestine for the first time until like my mid 20s. So I was an adult when I went, um, 4 or 5 times, um, something like that. The last time I was there was 2019. Um, my mother had gone back more than all of us. Her parents still had their house at the time. So my mother had been back 30, 40 times. And the last time I went with just my parents, and my dad had not been back since the early 70s. So that was a really great trip because my mother was always going back throughout her life, and my father hadn't been back since the early 70s. So that was huge for him. And so, yeah, that's how many times I've been there. But I have seen pretty much everything of Palestine except Gaza. So I've been in the Israeli territories, the Palestinian territories. I've seen most of the big cities and even little villages here and there. Um, but my grandparents have seen Gaza and they tell me stories about it. My parents have never been to Gaza because in the 90s, you could take a bus from the West Bank to Gaza as like a day trip to the beach. And my grandparents would tell me that they would just take buses and go to the beach. And so my grandparents had been there. So that was nice to hear their stories about that.
Yeah, I've been in Gaza in the 90s. I think I wasn't even a teenager. Maybe I was, but I was really young. I don't remember much. I remember the beach, I remember the restaurant, I remember the views. The food was amazing. It was beautiful.
I heard
It's
that
like
it's very ancient looking, my grandmother said. My tata said it was.
yeah, it's like Jaffa, you know? Very beautiful. And I remember that day there was a big whale that was stuck outside the ocean,
Really?
Mediterranean Sea. Yeah, and I remember, and I was like, people were trying to drag him back in, but if any of these beautiful fish get out of the shore, get out of the sea, I don't know, I don't think you can put him back. It's over. I don't know why that happens.
Hmm.
I'm not an expert when it comes to fish or big fish,
Yeah.
but I will never forget that. And people were like not eating it, trying to bring it back to the water, you know?
Right, right. I
Like
mean,
that.
that's interesting because my mother and father tell me about like when my mother would go back in the 90s, the wall wasn't up yet. So it's like I've never seen Palestine without the wall because I didn't go to Palestine until I was an adult. So I think that would have been an interesting thing to see. Like, I mean, there were checkpoints and it was under occupation, but the wall wasn't everywhere. And so my mom tells me stories about that and my dad, and that's kind of interesting. But you've seen that
Yeah,
without.
that's the reason we moved from the wall, one part of the wall to another, because you think that if you're in the West Bank, you're in the wall. No, what the Zionist state do, they put themselves in the wall.
Yeah, yeah, it's very compartmentalized, it's very strategic. I always
Yeah.
say it's not a wall, I always say it's a death trap, like, maze. It's like it's just like a big old maze.
Yeah, and they decided to put their own people and scare them around the world to bring them back to this little area that they put walls and claim that God promised them this land 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years ago, and that this is their land. And I'm like, bro, you're Ethiopian, bro, you're Polish, bro, you're Chinese, bro,
Right,
like you're Iraqi, you're Moroccan. Like, what are you talking about?
right, right, and it's interesting because you were talking about East Jerusalem earlier, that you had family eventually moved there, like, I always explain to people that, my family's from Ramallah, and I still have some family back in Ramallah. They Israelis don't live in Ramallah, like the settler. So they like because everyone's like seeing these videos and they're like the settlers. I'm like, yeah. I was like, my family don't know what it's like to live amongst Israelis. They're in there. They're stuck in there. That's their own little paradise inside a prison. And I mean, you can see the settlements surrounding you like surveillance. And that was hard for people to comprehend. I was like, there's these little small pockets that haven't been technically ethnically cleansed in Area A. Israeli, I mean, IOF come in there periodically, but I was like, they don't have Israeli neighbors. And that was so hard for people to like understand after they realized what Palestine was in the West Bank. And they're like, oh, I was like, that's like on the outskirts and like, Area B and Area C. And so I was telling them that like the people in Jerusalem, like Palestinians in Jerusalem, the Palestinians in Jaffa, like they're amongst Israeli society. Like I was like, I mean, I can't be in Jaffa for very long. I'm there for a day or two, and I'm like, I gotta go inside Ramallah. I need to be in a Palestinian territory because I can't be around these people. I'm not used to being around them. My family's not used to being around them. And I'm just wondering how the Palestinians do that. It's like, I mean, I know Jerusalem's cut
Yeah,
up
yeah.
into two pieces.
Yeah, I mean, my uncle lives in Haifa.
Okay.
In Haifa, there's a lot of, Palestinians and Israelis that live there, and now they call the Palestinians Arab Israelis. That's the rebrand, right?
Hmm.
Um, but when you live there and you always lived there, you got to interact with them, you
Right.
know? And I speak modern Hebrew, you
Oh,
know?
wow.
So I even had to blend in and be a chameleon like you over there.
Yeah, yeah. Like I can blend in as like an Americano in Israel, like in Tel Aviv. Like they don't know I'm Arab. And I did some investigation when I was there. I sent my mom to the beach. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to the beach. Like, you're gonna blow my cover. I'm gonna hop in this cab. I gotta do some things because you just gonna have to go over there." And it was so crazy how different people talked to me when my mother was around because she looks very Arab and very. So it's just I could see they have a script. They have a script, and I would like run back to my family in Ramallah. I'm like, they have a script. They have a script. Like they have a literal script, word by word. Like they're the best. They're the chosen ones, and all the Palestinians should die. Like that's what they're telling people in cabs, and they didn't really know the extent of that because they're not going to say those things when they're in those cities. So it was so eye opening.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, very unique. So, speaking of the chosen ones,
yeah.
let's go to your faith journey. Tell me a little bit about your faith journey growing up as a Palestinian Christian that is Palestinian American, and where are you in the faith today? Just give me the whole journey.
I think that's also another complicated identity as a Palestinian. I think it goes in and out. Sometimes I feel like I have more faith as a Palestinian because I'm Palestinian and what's happening gives me more faith. And then there's times where I have lows where I'm like, where my faith is kind of shot because, you feel hopeless and you feel that there's no change. I think, you know, growing up Greek Orthodox and my mother was Catholic, it was the two oldest forms of Christianity. I mean, it used to be under one church until it got separated. That I thought when I like being in America and like going to the Greek Orthodox Church where all the Greeks and the Arabs were, like I thought that's what all the churches look like in America, right? And like I would see all the pictures of churches back in Palestine, pictures that my parents and grandparents had, and I'm thinking this is what churches look like, even though I was born in America and uh, grew up here, and I was culture shocked again by just American culture of just what their churches look like because the majority of Americans aren't Greek Orthodox. They're not like these ancient branches of Christianity. They're the new branches that kind of emerged from imperialism. And the West has colonized Christianity. And sometimes I'm hesitant to say I'm Christian because they've just like taken that word and rebranded it. And when I say I'm Christian, I feel like people think I'm like an evangelical or like Trump or I'm like, no, not that Christian. And I was shocked because I had gone to these, Greek Orthodox churches in Houston, and they're beautiful. I mean, it's like an art piece when you walk in, and it's calm and it's therapeutic, and they're not doing all these sing-alongs like these mega churches. And so I went to a church with a friend when I was a kid in the neighborhood, like a predominantly white neighborhood, and it was a Baptist church. And I'm like, 12-year-old Gabby thinking, oh my God, it's going to look like the Greek Orthodox church. I walk in and it's just white walls. And I'm just like, am I in a church or a conference room? Like, I was shocked because we got dressed up when we went to church and it was beautiful in there and it was art everywhere and just like you can feel the holiness. And I was like, oh, this is what like churches look like here. And I was shocked by that. Like, just these very like new, like, just like white walls and like a projector. Like, if there's a projector in your church, like, I'm not convinced it's a holy place. And they would do all these sing-alongs, and that was so weird to me as a growing up Greek Orthodox, because we don't do these like sing-alongs and jump around like it's a musical, and that was like so strange to me, and I didn't like it. It didn't feel ancient. It didn't feel holy. It didn't feel like it came from a place of lineage. It just felt like a rebrand of something. Not that I'm dogging on anyone's religion, but these newer Christianities, they are emerged from colonization. They are another branch of Christianity that they just kind of made up through imperialism. And I was just shocked by it, and I did not like it. And so I stopped going to those churches with friends in the neighborhood. I was just like, they're wearing t-shirts and just like flip-flops, and I'm like, I just I didn't feel the soul in me, you know what I mean? And obviously the churches in Palestine, I mean, the walls are talking to you. And so that's what I was definitely shocked by, just Western Christianity, because, even though I was born and raised here, a village of Palestinians raised me. The majority of people I was around were immigrants or refugees. Like, that was my world. So to go into these very a very individualistic kind of white American world was very strange to me. And I just, I didn't, I knew something was wrong. I knew America did something. And so I think my faith goes back and forth because uh, I think just at a personal experience, I think the people who have the most faith, the most endearing faith that I've seen in my life, are people who question their faith. It's a relationship. They take some things from it, they reject some things, they make compromises with it, um, that have whatever that may be. And so I'm not a fan of organized religion. I think it's evil. I think it's there to justify power. And I think that people use profits to profit off the killings of children. And that's what America has done. And that's what a lot of, European nations have done. And like, there are bad sides to religion. So that's why I kind of like to just say faith instead of organized religion, because it's become a place of power. And I think people turn to faith when, one, they're hopeless, or two, they feel like they are losing their power. So if you see in history, people turn to faith, either one of those two things. And that's what we're seeing. People feel hopeless. People are watching what's happening in Gaza, and you're seeing all these people convert to Islam, like Americans. Like, it's inspirational. Palestinians are the people of faith. That's what people have called them. And being a Palestinian Christian, they call us the Living Stones, the oldest Christian community in the world. I took a lot of pride in that, but with that pride came a lot of pain. So I always felt like I was walking a tightrope, or I was always struggling between this tug of war between pride and pain. And because erasure is not easy to watch. Erasure is a painful existence. It makes you stronger, and I know Palestinians are very strong, and they're like, we resist, we never give up, but there's a lot of pain inside of us as well. And I think being a Palestinian Christian, people, Arabs can't be Christian. Like, what are you talking about? And that was so weird to people. And when I would walk into a space, I'd always say, oh, I'm a Palestinian Christian, because I am prideful to be Palestinian, but that's not the only, like, I'm prideful to be a Christian Palestinian, because what, 1%, maybe less than 1% in Palestine are still only Christian. And that's like, we've been erased. And it's like, that's something that's a part of my identity that I want to hold and I want to keep, and then there's like another piece of my identity. I would go into like these queer spaces, like growing up and finding out who I was. And I thought, like, being Palestinian and feeling so much exile and banishment and erasure and misunderstood, I thought going into queer spaces that I would find people who I could connect with. I could find people that understood what it meant to be understood what it meant to be kicked out of your home, uh, understood what it felt like to be exiled. Like, I thought that that was going to be a place of refuge for me. And I found it to be the complete opposite in America. I mean, in my generation, I'm a millennial. I know it's getting better in the new generation with Gen Z, and I was really disappointed in that, because in my generation, queer spaces, faith doesn't exist in queer spaces. They never talked about faith. It was completely rejected, and they probably rejected it for good reason at the time. And they never talked about racism. There was so much racism in queer communities because it is rooted in white supremacy. And um, a lot of these like queer events were Zionists funded, and nobody knew what a Zionist was. And all of these people expressing their oppression wasn't realizing that the thing that is oppressing them is the thing that is pretending to support them. And that was hard for me because I was a Palestinian and I was always the only Arab in a queer space. And they never talked about those things. And I thought it would be a collective space of solidarity. But what I found is that it was just another space of Western individualism. It was another space of me, I. And that's what I've always rejected. And I've always talked about throughout my life is individualism, because Palestinians come from a collectivist culture. We're not just a collectivist culture, we're a collectivist society. You know what I mean? That's what makes Arabs and Asians very similar, is that their societies are collective. Like, Hispanics are collective in the family unit, but their societies aren't built collectively, like Mexico, and it's very different. So that individualism in a space where I thought it would be collective was just reconfirming what I already disliked and rejected just about American lifestyle and American values. And that was hard because now there's nowhere to run. Now there's nowhere to seek refuge. Now, and I would walk into spaces like with my, like, this is my cross from Ramallah, pure gold. And, you walk into a queer space and they're okay with you being queer. And, they might not even mention that you're Palestinian because they don't know what Palestinian is to even have an opinion on it. But they would look at me like I was wearing an omen around, my neck. And without realizing that I'm not wearing just my belief, I'm wearing my family history. I'm wearing my lineage that's been erased and taken. Like, I'm wearing my pride and pain. And I realized that Western Christianity, there was no lineage in their faith. And that was the issue. My faith was based on history and lineage, and that's what made it so different. And I couldn't connect with American Christians because, even though I'm American technically, because I was born in America, because there was no talk about that. And Palestinians are always talking about lineage. They're always talking about that when it comes to their faith. And, like, I carry Ramallah, the hills of God, around my neck. Like, I carry it in me. And I refused to take it off to fit some narrative, because I'm not here to fit narratives. I'm here to break them. And, and I was very disappointed in that community, because I thought it was a community where I could finally be myself and then I realized that that's not who I am. And that's not my space. That's not my family. I didn't it just wasn't what I thought it would be. And it was because I was Palestinian and I was one of the oldest, we're part of the oldest Christian community in the world. And I was an indigenous person. You know, people don't look at me and think of an indigenous woman. And so later in my life, I realized that the people that I connected with the most, it didn't matter what their sexuality was, it didn't matter what their race was. People who were indigenous, people who understood what it was like to be exterminated and to be erased, and to know that the grass and the land and the trees, you know, is what's going to carry hope through you. And that's the problem with America, is they have no connection to land. And that was the missing piece in every space I went into, whether it was a faith space, whether it was a queer space, whether it was all these spaces. That's what didn't exist in every space. So it felt very isolating. It felt very lonely. So I just connected with more Palestinians and connected with more indigenous people. And that's really where I found, um, where I found like something, not just connection, but something that we can do for others. Because I think that's the problem with America, is that you live for yourself, you live for you and your family. Whereas I don't live for what kind of life just to live for yourself? I don't like that. Doesn't get me up in the morning. To live for others, to be of service to others. This is what gives us purpose, because you can't have purpose without meaning, and you can't have meaning without being of service to a great deal of people. This is what pulls you through things. This is what pushes you. This is what gives you purpose, like sustainable purpose. And the things that you like to do is not going to give you purpose. It's not going to give you happiness. Look at all the artists who, like, off themselves, or like on drugs, or like, just think of any famous artist, writer, or painter. Like, they did what they loved. They broke, they were famous. They did everything. They changed the world of art and writing and movies, and they still were unhappy people, because you can't be happy if you don't serve others. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we are supposed to serve. Jesus
Yeah.
is the perfect description of a servant,
Hmm.
right? He was serving people, he was helping people, he was healing people, he was feeding people. He created, probably as a carpenter, he created toys for all the kids that were unfortunate. He's
Right.
always with the oppressed. He's always giving, 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 and then he gives his life, right?
Right.
And through that, we have a new life, a new creation. In him, we are a new creation. And that's well said. Like, the thing that I have a problem with when it comes to, I guess you call it the queer movement, or LGBTQXYZ, whatever. They keep adding letters. But I
Yeah.
don't care. Yeah, I don't care if you're gay or not. That's your story and you deal with that.
And to pin off that, like when you were saying adding letters, I always say, adding labels just adds options, but it doesn't really answer questions.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I've been really hated in queer communities, being a queer person, because I challenged the community. I challenged the flaws that I saw, that now are starting to emerge after Palestine. Like, oh, now y'all get it. I've been talking about it for like 15 years. And so it was, you don't challenge groups of oppression. And I was like, there's something that was built, like, it's another brand. So, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I think we were good when it was LGB,
mhm.
and then it went Q, then it went T, then it went X, and then it went A, and then it went plus, and then it went plus, and then the flag had another rectangle, and a circle, and this, and I'm like, okay, we get it.
Yeah,
Okay, you want to include every different branch of the equation, but to me, it's individualistic.
it
It's
is
all
very,
about me, and it's about jumping on bandwagons. For
yeah,
example, for example, when the Black Lives Matter happened, I'm talking before it became a corporate movement, when it was a simple movement, a protest, when the cops were killing black kids, I was like, okay, Black Lives Matter, right? So I was like, okay, I'm okay with that. But then it gets taken by the Democrats as a corporation, right?
Right.
And then it gets infiltrated by the LGBTQ,
Right.
whether they were black or not. And then it became all trans lives matter, or all black trans lives matters, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, as we say back home, يعني كتير, too
Yeah.
much,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
too much. So I see that. And then let's fast forward, not to compare Palestine movement to the Black Lives Matter, two different things. So then the Palestine movement begins, and it's Free Palestine. I guess it's called like this in America, Free Palestine. We want to be liberated. We want our freedom. We want Palestine back, how it used to be. Okay. So they're catching up to season 75, episode 10 of the story. And then people go on the streets. It's about Palestine. Most of the people that are taking the streets, their main cause is Palestine, and they're raising Palestinian flags. Some of them raised also American flags, saying, I'm American and Palestinian, which is fine because we are here. Then I start seeing the infiltration of the LGBTQ. Gay flags everywhere. People interviewing them, they don't know anything about Palestine. They never cared about Palestine. And all of a sudden, just like they did with the Black Lives Matter, they're jumping on the bandwagon. And I'm like, I understand you want to support a group of oppressed people, but why didn't you care before?
Right. And I think there's different levels to oppression. I mean, I do see some influencers definitely using their queer platforms, which has been nice because pink washing, like I was talking about pink washing before that was a term about, the gay pride parade in Tel Aviv is just a big sham. It's just a bunch of white rich dudes in their early 30s. I mean, gay marriage is not even legal in Israel. And it's just like a big show. And I think it's not like the individual people, it's obviously the entity, how it's built, who's putting money into it. And I think some, queer folks are definitely seeing that now, which is nice. Like, your identity is not the center of the world. And I've been seeing a lot of influencers say that. I'm like, thank you for finally saying that, because that's what I've just been talking about. Like, this has nothing to do with sexuality. This is just about centering yourself, which is an individualistic American value. And that's what I'm rejecting. And every group I went into, that's what I saw. And that was very foreign to me, being Palestinian, because you don't just represent yourself when you're Palestinian, you represent your family, you represent the future, you represent the past. And that, you're not just accountable for your own actions. You are, but you're not. Like, you still represent other people. And so yeah, I mean, hopefully those spaces will change with time, with what's going on. But I think I had the issue of, because people would always be like, well, binary is a construct. Yeah, it is, but so is individual identity. That's a construct too. And I'm not saying binary is not a construct, a Western construct, but so is individual identity. So, like, the street goes both ways. And so I think there's a lot of complexity in that. And that's kind of a black or white issue for people. It's kind of like the death penalty. It's like, you're like, it's there, you believe in it or you don't. It's like, I'm not going to change your opinion about the definition of gender, and you're not going to change mine. So let's talk about things where we can actually meet in the middle, because there are some things that we're just not going to meet in the middle. And you know what I mean? So, but I think those issues are so minute when it comes to watching babies be killed and watching. And I did see that in the queer community, like recently, like, oh, like, who cares about being gay? These people are being killed. Like, this is way worse. Um, and I would always see like people, oh, why are you doing oppression Olympics? Because oppression is not equal. There are levels. Like, even as a Palestinian American, yeah, I'm heartbroken, and I struggle, and I am oppressed, but I am not experiencing what the people in Gaza are experiencing. And for me to say that is really self-indulgent, and it's taking away from their suffering. Like, I can feel my pain, but their pain is way worse, and it's something that needs to be valued more. And that's what it means to be Palestinian. Like, not think about yourself all the time. Because you see the people in Gaza, they're talking about Sudan. Like, people in their own genocide are talking about saving Sudan. Like, what does that tell you about a group of people? I mean, if anybody in this country was watching their own genocide, you think they would be caring about anyone else? Like, would anyone do that? So it just shows you that they live for each other, but they also live for other people that are outside their community. And just one more thing I wanted to say was, in my life, I have had way more hate and way more discrimination being Palestinian in queer spaces than I have being queer in Palestinian spaces, because way more, way more. It's it's such a different world, and I always reference that to people because I'm like, because you know how the West has been with Arabs and queerness and pink washing, and oh, they're gonna throw you off a building and all this crap. And I was like, I've had way more hate because there is a lot of racism towards Arabs. It's subconscious, it's integrated in every community, and sometimes we don't even realize it. So
Yeah, but you have to find or know if you haven't found where does that stem from? The creation of hating Arabs and Middle Eastern, because before the 1940s that didn't exist,
it was
right?
communism. Yeah, it was yeah.
So
Communism
when
was any communism.
yeah, so when you start looking at where does it stem from, you start seeing that the Zionist entity is
Mhm.
behind it.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And then if you rewind to the Bolshevik Revolution, which most people don't know about, that was communism. Communism is Jewish. It is what it is. 95% of the Bolsheviks were Jews. They called themselves Jews. And they killed 40 million Christians in Russia and 20 million Muslims. Nobody talks about that. And then it became Soviet Union, the communist country. It changed after that, but that's what it was then. And then after they were done with Russia, they wanted to do the same with the rest of Europe. Then the Austrian painter came and he's like, not on my watch. Then we know what he did. And it doesn't matter if 40 million Christians died in Russia, 600,000 in Gaza. That's, I think, is the number now. People still say 60. No, they killed 500,000 Palestinians. Or the Bosnian genocide, or the Armenian genocide that Zionist state doesn't even say that it exists. And we can go on, or the Native American ethnic cleansing of 800 million people. No, they only want to talk about the 6 million Jews. First of all, what is a Jew?
It's a religion.
It's Judaism. It's a religion. And if you really want to go back in history to what a Jew is 2,000 years ago, me and you might have been Jews.
Yeah, you Judaism, convert to Christianity, convert to Islam.
Yeah, Judeans, that's the real term, Yahudi, from Yehuda, from
Yeah.
Judea, which was in Palestine. Jesus comes, the ones that believe in him became Christians. The ones that rejected him became Jews. And then Islam comes, and then some of those Judeans, Jews, Christians convert to Islam, or maybe forced to convert because there was some forcing to. So when you look at the DNA of Muslims, Christians, and I don't want to say Jews because these Ashkenazi Jews are not from there, they're from Europe. The Judeans, the real Jews, we're the same lineage, same people, same blood, different religion. And then these people create their religion called Judaism, and they say, no, we are the Jews, and this is our land. So pretty much what's happening is the definition of anti-Semitism when they're killing Palestinians.
Yeah, or we're literally watching an anti-Semitic genocide. But that's the thing. It's rooted in racism. Like, it the modern day Judaism, as now is rooted in white supremacy and Jewish supremacy, and these are all overlaps. Christofascism, like when people are like, "Oh, it's separate," it's like, yeah, but just because two things are separate doesn't mean they don't have overlap. There's most definitely overlap, because I really hate when people are like, "Oh, well, the Israelis, they're not Jews." I was like, they're Jews because they practice Judaism. They're radical Jews. I'm not saying they're ethnically Jews, but they are practicing Judaism, and they are calling themselves this thing. And I'm not gonna like use I have to use Israeli or I have to use Zionist. I'm like, it's all the same thing. It's just you're just using different words to package it. Like it doesn't matter. Call it pineapple for all I care. Like it's the same thing. Like that's my favorite argument on one of my
She
videos.
said pineapple.
No, people they were like they were. I was like, oh, Jesus was Palestinian. He was born in Bethlehem, like common sense. And then people were like, well, Palestine didn't exist. It was Judea. I was like, call it Judea, call it Palestine, call it pineapple for all I care. My point is, it's the same location. That's the point.
Yeah, I mean, you see my shirt.
Yeah, like that's my point. Like, okay, what was the Philippines 3,000 years ago? It wasn't the Philippines. Does that mean that it's not the same? Like, there's just always an exception for this little piece of small holy land. No exception anywhere else. Like, you know
Do
what I
you
mean?
think do you think now as it stands, is there anything holy about that land?
It's a good question.
Really, just think about it.
The first time that I went to Jerusalem and I saw the Western Wall, I felt like I was in a horror movie. I felt like I was literally in Halloween. And I was shocked the first time. I was shocked, even as a Palestinian. I didn't know what I was looking at. I think heaven on earth is burning in hell. I think I can see that with my eyes. But I think you can rise from the ashes. And I think that's what Palestinians hold on to. Because destroying the land does mean destroying the people. That's just, let's not be naive. Let's be realistic about it. But the land remembers who harms it and who nurtures it, who heals it. The land remembers who harms it, and the land remembers who heals it. And we know who's harmed it. We know who's healed it. And hopefully in the future, inshallah, like that will be a better outcome. But I think that's a complicated question. What do you think?
Did you touch the wall?
No, no, because it felt like the devil was like settled, like squatting there. And I was like, I'm just gonna wait till someone else kicks him out. I just felt like the devil squatted in God's home. That's what it felt like.
You are 100% accurate. What the devil did is he created a counterfeit. Counterfeit Israel, counterfeit Jews, and a counterfeit Holy Land. So he moved in, he took it, he called it Israel, which is supposed to be people. God is not in the business of real estate. God is in the business of people, not real estate, not foreskin, none of that. So the devil comes, he puts that star that has nothing to do with David on his flag, and then he eliminates the actual real Jews that were there, and then he starts eliminating the Christians, and now we're 1%, and now the goal is to eliminate the Muslims too,
And
obviously.
I think like Clint's Palestinian Jews. Like people forget about that.
Yeah, the Jews. That's the first thing they went after, to
Right.
eliminate that identity,
Right.
because
To
that
claim it.
does
To
not
claim it.
work, you know?
Yeah.
That does not work with the new branding of Israel.
Yeah.
And then they called themselves God's chosen people. And the ultimate thing that made them stay this long in that land is convincing Christians in America that they're God's chosen people, and that Israel is the biblical Israel. And that's when it just got worse.
Yeah, because they needed a narrative. Because before, Palestine was not the first place they were going. They were going to go to Argentina, Africa. People were like, no, no, no. And they're like, okay, well, I guess we'll just go here and just create this narrative. But I think what makes Israel so dangerous, and so, I mean, Palestine's really got the crappy part, like the crappy end of it, is that they are the only colonizers in history to claim to be the indigenous people of the place they're colonizing. Whereas all the other colonizers were like, yeah, we need to go in there, kill the natives, take their land. We're entitled to it. We're the superior race. But they never said they were there 3,000 years ago. They weren't like, we were originally here. No, they're just like, God said it belongs to me because I'm superior. And that's what makes them so dangerous, because that's the only narrative they could make to do what they do, because there's no other thing that any other thing that could. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're using religion we are using prophets to justify the prophets off the killings of people and to gain power. And that's why I have a problem with modern day um, uh, uh, organized religion, because that's what it's come to. Like, I always tell people, like, when you see the Christians in Palestine and the Muslims in like, they're all together. Like, that's what I love about Palestine, is that it's not like this separate thing. And like, we even saw it in Gaza, like when Israel was bombing the mosques, like all these Muslim Palestinians would go inside churches and baptize their Muslim children with the Christian Palestinians, because like, that to me is the most beautiful thing. I mean, a sad, obviously very unfortunate, but like, that to me is beautiful. And I see that in when I go to Ramallah, and religion there is so different in the Palestinian community than it is here. There's so much separation here, even between different Christian groups. And that's what I love about Palestine. And that's what they've been trying to destroy, is that. And I think, so when I think about Christianity, I think about my faith, it's like, that's what I'm talking about, like that. It's more than my belief. It's my history.
Yeah, it's your identity. So tell me, who and what is Jesus to you?
Well, Jesus was short. We do know that. And not white. We know that. I like when people talk about him being white. I'm like, y'all never mention he was short. Like, they make him look like he's like 6'2". He was a tiny dude. I think since Christianity is the largest faith in the world, people are going to take Jesus and interpret it any way for themselves. It's the only like figure that people are debating about. Like, if I told you Cleopatra was Asian, you wouldn't accept that. You wouldn't be like, well, maybe, we don't know. No, you'd be like, she wasn't Asian. She was Greek and was born in Egypt. Like, and she's older and died before Jesus was even born. Like, if we know that about Cleopatra, then we know who Jesus was. But when it comes to Jesus, because it's people's faith, no, we don't know. I mean, maybe he was this. And I'm like, no, we know. I think what he is to me is a representation of the thing that I'm trying to hold on to, that I see slipping all the time. And I think that it's a privilege to choose if you want faith or not. I think that's a privilege for Americans. And that's what I saw in a lot of spaces, a lot of like, what a privilege to choose whether you want to believe or not. Because when you're Palestinian, you don't have a choice. You have to believe. That's the only thing that's going to get you through. I don't have the choice to be like, you know what? I don't believe. I have to. It's the only hope. It's the only thing that's going to get me up in the morning. It's the only thing that's going to give me hope. Because what we've seen for so long is so destructive and such an attack of your entire existence, which no other group of people goes through. And we're constantly reminded of our erasure. I can't go anywhere. Like, we're trapped inside our own tragedy, even outside the walls. Like, if I get in my car, I see McDonald's, I'm triggered. I see I'm triggered. I see Jerry Seinfeld on a bill. Like, it's triggers. And that's what's so difficult to navigate. And there's no other group of people who experience that. So it's hard to explain that to people, because I can't just escape it. There's nowhere to run. So I have to find ways to cope, and I have to find ways in having a community is what pulls me through it. So I think he just represents my history, the things that have been erased, and I refuse to let go of that, because that's all I have left. And that's what he represents. And yeah, so I'm gonna be wearing my cross, and I'm gonna confuse everybody with my hair and my look, and And I don't do it to shock people. I do it because it actually exposes how our stories have been misinterpreted and erased. I do that in spaces. Like, it's fun to see people's face, but I'm not doing it for the shock value. I'm doing it because it reconfirms to me um, how erased we are. And I don't know. I mean, how do you feel? Like, explain your existence in erasure. It's so hard to explain.
Yeah, I mean, it's they try to erase us. They've been trying to erase us for 80 years. But God is with us. I mean, Emmanuel, Allah ma'ana, God is with
Mhm.
us. That's his name. And it's funny because that's what we say back home. Allah ma'ak, may God be
Yeah,
with you, right?
yeah. I mean, the whole language is God, and that's what makes it like, it's not like hi, bye. Like, I mean, how surfaced. It's poetic. It's like the language is ancient. I mean, I know you just spoke Aramaic, and there's still some Syrians that speak that, but it's like that's like the way we speak is poetry. Like, we call our children the soul of my soul, the eyes of my eyes. We really take body parts and say you are a part of my body, and it's just the English language is just so,
Hey, sweetheart.
there's no depth. Like, even curse words, like, we don't just attack you, we attack your entire family and your entire history. Like, we're gonna go all the way down.
Well, the crazy thing about growing up as a Palestinian, we take your biggest insecurity and it becomes your nickname.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think, like, being an Arab woman, people just like, Palestinian women are very strong and they're very dominating, and there's this assumption that, like, Arab women are submissive, and, like, I'm like, have you've clearly never met Palestinian women. Like, the women in who raised me are the people who shaped me. Like, the men didn't shape me. They were there and they provided and but like, the women shaped me. Like, they were the strength, you know? Like, they were the strength. They were the strength of the families. And
I
I think
agree.
that's a big misinterpretation, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you meet Palestinian women, Lebanese women, Jordanian, Syrian, Bilad al-Sham, right? The Semitic countries, we're very similar. At the end of the day, they divided us. Um, yeah, powerful, strong women. They're not oppressed. They run businesses. Like in Palestine, women work everywhere and they love education. Their parents tell them, you need to go to school, you need to go to college, you need to graduate. And if she gets married, she gets married. But the goal is education, right? So you can have something in case you don't get married or something happens, right? And even though marriage is very important culturally and having a family and kids, we love those traditions. But also, the women are the backbone, man.
Yeah, they're the
They're the
backbone.
backbone.
And, like, the West, like, they're just full of contradictions, but sometimes contradictions are doorways because truth slips through the cracks. Because it's like, you're talking about, you value marriage, but Americans value marriage. They value, like, you value this something, like, oh, you have to, like, you do that too. And I think people forget that Palestinian women were the forefronts of women's rights in the Middle East, and even Christian Palestinians were the start of resistance groups. Um, and they forget that. And I think Palestine had the potential not to just change the Middle East, but to change the world. And of course, America and European forces came in and didn't want the Arabs to be that. They're so threatened by that, because we don't just have resources, and our land is not like, we're not poor people. Our land is wealth. You took our generational wealth and turned it into generational trauma. Like, you know what I mean? We were not always just people in tents, and like you did that. And I think that um Palestine is also one of the countries that has the most PhDs per capita. Like, we value education, and out of any other Middle Eastern country, Palestine's the most liberal Middle Eastern country I've ever been to. Like, it is a place of collectiveness. It is a place of, and I'm not talking about Israel territories. I'm talking about Palestine. Um, and I think it just had so much potential. And I think that's what's so heartbreaking, because it was a dreamland turned into a nightmare. Our economy was good. Homeless rates were low. It's still pretty low, even when people are being displaced because families take them in. Um, it's just a land of just resources, and they just they don't want you to, like, if they can't have it, you can't have it, like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I look at Lebanon today, how it is beautiful, right?
Very.
And I'm thinking like if we didn't have the Zionists in the past 80 years, we would look like Lebanon.
Oh my god, yeah, and it's
This
like
Lebanon is beautiful and
it's
people
all mountains
coexist.
and green. There's no desert. It's not like Egypt. I've been to Egypt. It's like all desert.
Yeah.
I went to
Yeah.
Petra in Jordan. I'm like, okay, now I know why the King Abdullah, that traitor, is allies with Israel, because there's nothing here.
Yeah, especially the west of Jordan, yeah.
Yeah,
But
Palestine is like little Arab Italy. Like, it's just
yeah.
stones and
I
it's
look at Lebanon, I look at the coast, I look at the coexistence, and Lebanon is small, and I'm like, man, that could be like exactly like Palestine would have been grown into that,
and it's
you
smaller than
know?
Palestine. It's a
Yeah,
small.
it's smaller. So I just pray for Lebanon right now. They're bombing south of Lebanon.
Yeah, I know. The Palestinian refugee camps. Like, they
Yeah.
like, people don't understand that they don't just target us in Palestine. They want to get rid of us anywhere. Like like there's just that's what they want.
Is
And
it you think their target is the devil's goal is to get rid of Christ bloodline?
yeah, I think erasing Palestinian Christians is definitely part of the Western, like, not associating brown people to Christianity, even though it was Judaism, Christianity, and Islam was all originated from brown people, and they don't like that. So, Islam went to Asia, and then Judaism and Christianity went to Europe. So they're like, this is going to be ours, and then we're going to make Islam the enemy, and that's exactly what they did. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
I mean
because a
right
lot of
now.
Asian communities are Muslim, Indonesia, and
Yeah, I
that's,
mean
yeah.
only Arabs are only 20% of Islam.
Yes, thank you for saying. Yeah, the majority of Arabs in America are Christian. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
of course, they're more Muslim in the Arab world because that's just what happens over history. But in America, yeah, because they came, yeah, it's like a whole thing. Yeah, there's definitely more, but they have they don't associate Christianity to people of color, which is weird because most black people are Christian. You know what I mean? Like in
Yeah,
America,
Mexicans too.
yeah, they want, yeah, like Rome colonized it. They think
Yeah.
it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, they're just like squatting in my house and they haven't gotten out yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do wish Palestine was preserved. I think that's what really hurts. Like,
I know.
no
I
one's going to
know.
blow up the Vatican. No one's going to blow up the Great Wall of China. And for Palestine not to be preserved is very painful to watch. I think that's, like, besides people being killed, watching the land destroyed really, really gets to me. And I try to be strong, but to say that it doesn't bother me is just a lie. It bothers me.
Well, let me ask you the last question here. What do you think is going to happen to Gaza?
I think Trump is going to turn it into a Jewish Dubai. I think him and Jared Kushner. I think the Saudis will be in on it as well, and I think they're going to take. They'll put Palestinians in a little corner and build their little tents or little apartments, just to be like, yeah, see, we built. Like, you don't destroy an entire land to rebuild for the people you killed. That makes no common sense. You don't do that. Oh, I'm sorry. We spent all this money destroying you. Now we're going to put all this money to help you. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Unless someone stops them, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But I think they slowly, because I mean, Israel's already occupying some parts of Gaza. Um, I think that's what's going to happen. I think they'll put them in a little space and be like, "Oh, I did my job. Here you go," and then they'll slowly. I mean, there's no airport there, so I don't know if they're going to put like Jewish people in there first or like tourists there. Like, it's a long process, but I think if someone doesn't stop it, I think that will be the future, and that's going to be very difficult to watch. What do you think? I mean, I'm hoping for a better outcome.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to look at this. Number one is that their pipe dream becomes a reality of turn it to a Rivera, right? With the Trump Tower and Netanyahu Malkowski and Trump sipping on pina colada, not being hung for the Epstein files, but and having like an international community of government over there, right? Rather than Hamas or the PLO or PA, whatever you want to call it. But another way I see is maybe eventually they're like, well, we do need to have a two-state solution because that's what they keep talking about, right? Even though I believe it should be one state because how are you going to connect the two, whatever. So if they really push for a two-state solution, I don't think that's possible because Israel will never approve that.
There's not enough land for it to be a two state. They've taken more chunk. Like, what are you going to build
Even if there is land, like the goal of the Zionist regime is that there's no Palestine. That Zionist state cannot exist next to a Palestinian state.
No,
It's
why? Yeah,
impossible.
that's like
Yeah.
not putting Nazis with Jewish Holocaust survivors. Like, you would never do that. But for us, we have to compromise.
Yeah.
And yeah, and
But
they're
even if we compromise, they're not willing to do it.
no, they're very. The problem with Israel is this society. It's indoctrinated society, and it's a group of people who have no consequences. I've never seen a society like that. I'm not just talking about militia groups. I'm talking about actual citizens, your next door neighbor. Like, I'm not talking about militia groups like in Sudan. I'm talking about citizens walking around and doing whatever the hell they want. I mean, doing whatever they want with no consequence. That's insane. That's the problem. You can't reform a country or a legal country if you don't reform it from the inside, and they're not going to reform it from the inside. And that's the problem. It's not the government. I mean, it's just a branch of it. It's the settlers. It's the whole indoctrination. It's the entitlement. Like, I've been all over the world. I've never seen a society like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I like go next door and like kill my neighbor's dog, like the police are they're gonna be at my door. Like, but Israelis could just they do whatever they want. I mean, we've
Yeah, I
seen
mean, they're the most evil thing that ever existed on this planet in
they're
the way
so
they commit
vile.
their crimes.
They're so vile.
Like so many people around the world committed crimes. Who knows what our ancestors did in the past? But to see them document it and show it and play it and celebrate it and wear women's lingerie and hang teddy bears, other than the killing and the murdering and the massacring, and seeing all that, and then after they get done with that, they go to Tel Aviv and chill at the beach and sip on a pina colada or the eat their colonized hummus and falafel.
Now, like
It-
Israeli empanadas, I think I saw on television. I'm like, they're coming for y'all too.
The Greeks, be careful, feta cheese. Italians, pizza, be careful.
I mean, they're going into Thailand and the Philippines. They're giving like
They're getting beaten up by ladyboys.
I know, I love it. I know. Yeah, I'm definitely rooting for the trans women in that sense. I'm like, yes, like who's the real man?
This is the first time I was chanting for ladyboys.
And Thailand's never been colonized, and it's like they're not going to tolerate that. So they think they own the world. So of course they think they own Palestine. They think they own Thailand.
They're taking Cyprus right now.
Yeah, I know some Israelis got like they went to jail for like building something illegal or something. It's like they'll get consequences outside of Palestine. Like, of course, Greece is it. Like, if you do something wrong, we're going to put you in jail. The problem is they don't have the consequences in Palestine, and that's the problem for Palestinians. Like, Thailand will put them in jail. Like, that's a sovereign state. Like, they can't do anything about it. But that's the problem. They have no rules in Palestine.
Well, the problem is if you are Israeli and you're around the world and you commit crimes against children,
Hmm.
PEDO, you're a
Hmm.
PEDO, you get shipped back to Israel.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So so when they joined IOF and get brainwashed about us being Amalek animals,
Right.
so to them doing those things with children and women is part of their culture.
Yeah, there's always an excuse. Like, we're the only enemy. Like, we're like they
We're
can.
the goyim, we're the goyim.
Yeah, I mean, there's even been a lot of crimes in between male IDF soldiers doing things to women, like their own people, but they don't care. It's like if they're not held accountable for harming their own people, they're certainly not going to be held accountable harming Palestinians. That's the problem. Like, there's no way. Like that. It's just it's. I don't know what the solution is. There's no solution if there's no accountability, and that's the problem. They have no accountability.
So, how are we going to be able to differentiate who's a Zionist and who's Jewish?
Well, I mean,
Because they created that problem.
well, I think people forget. I saw a really good video today of a Jewish woman, and she's like, I think modern Jewish people need to understand that the 1948 Nakba is a part of Jewish history, and you need to own that. Yeah, it's Zionist. Yeah, it's this, that, that, but it's part of your Jew. People came off a boat from the Holocaust. Jews from the Holocaust came onto Palestine and stole Palestinian homes. Jewish people from the Holocaust. Those are the facts. So it's a part of your history and you have to own that. And I think modern day Judaism has a lot of Zionism infiltrated in its faith teachings, and that's the problem, that you can't separate it. That's the problem. And people are like, well, I'm not like, and again, you only make the excuse for Israel and Jewish people. Like, you don't do that with Christianity. Trump is a psycho and Vance is a psycho. I never hear anybody be like, well, they're not real Christians. Vance isn't a real Catholic. No, you accept that he's a Catholic. He's an extreme, well, he was an evangelical and then converted to Catholicism. No, he is. He's an but you never say that. You accept that he's an extreme, that you accept that he's a Christian. He's just an extreme Christian. But when it comes to Israelis being Jewish, you're like, well, they're not real Jews. Yeah, they are. They're extreme Jewish. They're extreme Jews. Israel is built on a Jewish supremacist ideology. They are a Jewish state. They don't call themselves. They call themselves the Jewish state, the only place on the planet that has a religious connotation to the development and what the society is. There's no Muslim country, there's no Christian country. So, like, to say that it's separate is just, again, it's another way to give value to one group of people and have no accountability. Like, Judaism is infiltrated in Zionism. Like, those are the facts.
So, Zionism is extreme Judaism.
Yeah, I mean, Zionism at first, like it was a Christian movement, and then they took, Judaism and weaved it into that. So they both are built from white supremacy. Like, when people are like, I know some of the settlers aren't white. I know some of them are Iraqi Kurds or Jews or Middle Eastern, but that you don't have to be a white person to be a part of white supremacy. Like, you're still a part of the ideology. So I think white supremacy and Jewish supremacy also have overlap, because people are like, well, it's not white supremacy, it's Jew. I'm like, it's the same thing. Again, you're just taking a word. Again, call it pineapple, call it whatever you want. It's still the same thing. Like, so I think in modern day, it's very hard to separate it. So I think modern day Jews have to really, because you hear stories of Jewish people being like, yeah, like we were taught in our faith that, like, Zionism was good and Israel was the best, and now they're kind of like regrouping their thought on
Well,
that.
I think the problem is when you read their Talmud, which is supposed to be their holy book, they call us goyim. They call
Yeah,
us animals, cattle. I have never seen a religion, if you read the Bible, read the Quran, or I don't know much about Hindu and Buddhism, they don't call other people animals.
I've read pieces of it, and I'm very. It's not my favorite faith. I mean, I can say that it's not. I don't like everything about Christianity. I don't like everything about Islam. I don't like everything about, like, I like some things. I don't like some things. But I had never read things that really gave me an eerie feeling. And oh, you're anti-Semitic. Like
You're
I
a Semite.
like I care at this point. Like, that's the least of my issues. And I was just like, okay, this is, it literally
It's
says,
pretty
like,
wicked.
it's very wicked. It's like, I just like, can you just read it until, like, I feel like Stephen King, like, it would be the, like, surpass Stephen King, like, horror novels. I'm like, it's scary. And I think that's,
It's blaspheming to Jesus Christ.
yeah. And it's like, the Quran's not like that. And,
Mm.
not even the Bible is like that. And I just, like, there's something not right, that it's not sitting well with me.
Because it's
And
written by rabbis. It's not the
yes,
word of God.
right, right, right. And I think that's the problem, is that Zionism is infiltrated in modern day Judaism. You can't separate it, and you can keep, people can keep saying it all they want. You can't do that. And I'm not going to separate it until you separate people of color, like until you separate people who believe in Islam and then like extremist Islamic militia groups. You don't separate them. You put them in a box. So once you separate that and you separate brown and black people and you see brown and black people as an individual, then I'll treat you as an individual. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like going inside and talking to a white woman and being like, "Hey, Karen," and she's like, "My name's not Karen." I said, "You're Karen until my father Abdullah is not Muhammad and Muhammad's not Abdullah. Until then, you're Karen." That's equality.
That's that's a funny way to put it, but I see your point of view. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well,
Do you know what I
Gabby,
mean? Like, yeah, I'll do it for you once you do it for us. Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, you
and
check
it doesn't
people,
matter.
man.
It doesn't. That's the thing. That's what white privilege and white supremacy is. It doesn't matter if I group Zionism and Judaism. You're still valued as a Jew. You're still valued as a white person because white people hold the power. I don't hold the power. So I can call you all the names in the world and I can group you in every group. It holds no power. But when you tell me that we're all grouped, that holds power. That's detrimental to our existence. People die, people experience racism. Like it actually affects our lives. Me telling Karen she's Jewish, not Zion, she's a Zionist because she's a Jew, doesn't change her privilege, doesn't change her value, doesn't change her life. And that's the difference.
Well, Gabby, I think you need to infiltrate the government and become the president.
Right?
So, so you can like be like, yeah, I check all these boxes. Surprise!
Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Oh man, well, Gabby, it was a pleasure having you. I had so much fun getting to know you and learning about you and hearing your perspective. So I want to thank you so much for giving me the time to have you on the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you for inviting me. I had a great time. It was so nice meeting another fellow Palestinian Christian, and we'll pull through. You know, we're gonna stick together, and that's what Palestinians do. Like, you know, like that's we resist. This is my resistance. This is my small act of defiance, and yeah, we'll keep pushing.
We keep pushing. That's all we can do, right?
Yeah,
Well, God bless you, Gabby. We'll be in touch and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
you too. Bye.
All right. Peace and love. All right, guys, you heard it from Gabby. Wonderful human being. But you can see how much she went through being born in the US as a Palestinian. Try to fit in here and try to fit in there. It's probably the story of many Palestinians around the world, not just in the US. This is what happened to us. And I'll be sharing more stories the more people I talk to. Until next time, God bless you. Christ is King. Free Palestine.